Welcome to the Auspicious Arts Child Safety Induction. This video will guide you through what you need to know about working with children, providing a safe environment, and reporting any incidents or misconduct. Auspicious Arts Project acknowledges the traditional owners and sovereign custodians of the land on which we are situated, the peoples of the Kulin Nation. We extend our respects to their ancestors and all First Peoples and Elders, past and present. This training video will include discussion of child abuse and harm. This type of content can be very sensitive, confronting, difficult to process, or uncomfortable. On this slide is a list of support services in the event that you might like to speak to somebody after watching this video. If you need to step out of the room or pause the recording at any time, please feel free to do so. Auspicious Arts, and by extension our clients, have a commitment to upholding child safety. Fundamentally, all children working with or engaged by Auspicious Arts projects have the right to feel and be safe, respected, valued, and protected from harm. Children should be made aware of and feel confident in their rights and responsibilities. Our organisation values diversity and does not tolerate any discriminatory practices. This video is in service of this commitment. We have also provided a full child-safe client induction pack to the main contact for your program or project, should you wish to access a copy of any of the documents discussed today. The following definitions help to define the scope of this training video. When we refer to a child or children, this means any young person up to the age of 18. A child performer or employee is any child or young person up to the age of 15 that performs work for an organisation, including volunteers. When we refer to the Child Safe Standards, we are speaking of the 11 standards that set out the minimum requirements and actions that organisations must take to keep children and young people safe in Victoria. It is important to note that the standards are not standardised nationally, and that each state has its own set of standards. All children have the right to feel safe and be safe, but safety does not just happen. Organisations who work with children must implement processes and safeguards in service of child safety, and the standards exist to guide the implementation of these processes and safeguards. The standards are a result of recommendations of the Victorian Parliament's Betrayal of Trust inquiry and evidence of what actually works to prevent child abuse in organisational and institutional settings. As an employee of a child-safe organisation, it is your legal obligation to understand and uphold all 11 standards. A regulator is an organisation that enforces the child safe standards. They help organisations understand and implement the standards, and they have the legal authority to take action if there is non-compliance. For organisations that employ children under the Child Employment Act 2003, Workforce Inspectorate Victoria is the regulator. When you employ children, you are required to hold a child employment licence. As a client of Auspicious, we hold this licence on your behalf for the duration of your project. This ensures that the appropriate legal requirements are covered and there is regulatory oversight in place. If you are not employing children, but your project requires the engagement of children or interaction with children, the Social Services Regulator is the relevant regulator. Depending on the situation, they may work with co-regulators. The following video provides a brief overview of Victoria's 11 child safe standards.
Children have the right to feel safe and be safe all the time, but safety doesn't just happen. In recent years, a number of inquiries have uncovered just how many children have been harmed or abused in organisations.
following video provides a brief overview of Victoria's 11 child safe standards.
Children have the right to feel safe and be safe all the time, but safety doesn't just happen. In recent years, a number of inquiries have uncovered just how many children have been harmed or abused in organisational settings, when organisations don't have the right culture, systems, processes and understanding to prevent child abuse. The Child Safe Standards are a set of mandatory requirements that organisations must act on to protect children and young people from harm and abuse. Victoria has had mandatory standards for a number of years, and they apply to most organisations that work or volunteer with children. Organisations covered by the standards include businesses, clubs, not-for-profit or volunteer organisations and government agencies. From July 2022, new Child Safe Standards apply to these organisations to help us keep strengthening our efforts to keep children safe.
At the Commission for Children and Young People, every day we oversee investigations into allegations of sexual, physical and psychological abuse of children in organisations. We know that the impact of childhood trauma stays with many children for the rest of their lives. Victoria's Child Safe Standards are now more aligned with the national principles for child safe organisations. This integrates what we learned from the Royal Commission into institutional responses to child sexual abuse. The 11 standards have clear guidance for organisations with minimum requirements to keep children safe. This includes policies and procedures you need to have and actions you need to take to ensure that all children and young people are safe in your organisation. We also understand that every organisation is different. The steps your organisation need to take will depend on your characteristics and your role with children. You might be a large business with a high level of responsibility for children, or you might be a small volunteer-run group that only provides some services for children. Either way, you need to meet the minimum requirements for each of the 11 standards. It is important to remember that all of the standards and the minimum requirements are legal obligations. This means that your organisation must implement them all. You can't pick and choose.
Let's quickly run through the 11 Child Safe Standards. Child Safe Standard 1 requires that organisations establish a culturally safe environment in which the diverse and unique identities and experiences of Aboriginal children and young people are respected and valued. Child Safe Standard 2 means child safety and wellbeing is embedded in organisational leadership, governance and culture. Child Safe Standard 3 requires that children and young people are empowered about their rights, participate in decisions affecting them and are taken seriously.
Child Safe Standard 4 means families and communities are informed and involved in promoting child safety and wellbeing. Child Safe Standard 5 means equity is upheld and diverse needs respected in policy and practice. Child Safe Standard 6 means people working with children and young people are suitable and supported to reflect child safety and wellbeing values in practice.
Child Safe Standard 7 requires the organisation to have processes for complaints and concerns that are child-focused. Child Safe Standard 8 means staff and volunteers are equipped with the knowledge, skills and awareness to keep children and young people safe through ongoing education and training. Child Safe Standard 9 means that the organisation's physical and online environments promote safety and wellbeing while minimising the opportunity for children and young people to be harmed.
Child Safe Standard 10 means implementation of the Child Safe Standards is regularly reviewed and improved. Child Safe Standard 11 means policies and procedures document how the organisation is safe for children and young people. A child safe organisation considers the diverse circumstances of each child. It recognises some children are more likely to be at risk of harm and abuse than others and responds according to their different needs. Upholding equity and respecting diverse needs are relevant considerations in implementing all standards. Organisations need to give attention to the vulnerability and needs of individual children, including those children living with disability, children from a culturally and linguistically diverse background, those children and young people unable to live at home, LGBTQI children, Aboriginal children, children of different religions, and children who have experienced past trauma. Learning more about these children can help you protect them from abuse and harm. There is a specific standard that requires organisations to establish a culturally safe environment in which the diverse and unique identities and experiences of Aboriginal children and young people are respected and valued. Being able to express their cultural identity makes Aboriginal children stronger and safer. It is important because when Aboriginal children do not feel safe to be themselves and express their individual culture, the risk they will be abused by others increases, and it may reduce their willingness to report that abuse. Protecting children from abuse and harm requires effort from the whole community. Organisations need to help parents, carers, families and communities play their part in protecting children by involving them in the organisation and providing them with information to understand their approach to child safety.
We know the overwhelming majority of people who work with children have their best interests at heart. And we've seen many organisations put in great work to make sure the children they work with are valued and respected, protected from harm, and empowered to speak up about safety concerns. But it can be too easy for people to think that child abuse in organisations is something that only happened in the past, or that could never happen in their organisation, meaning they do not put in the effort needed to think about what kinds of risks may exist and how they can be managed. It can be too easy to act on outdated myths about child abuse, to think that what children say is less reliable than what adults say, or that only certain types of adults can pose risks to children. And it can be too easy to get your child safety policies and systems in place, but not realise that child safety has to be constantly reviewed, refreshed and embedded in your organisation. Based on what we see in our work at the Commission, I can tell you, your work to implement the child safe standards is as important as ever.
At the Commission for Children and Young People, we are here to support you and have a range of information, guidance and resources available. Depending on the type of organisation you
One of the most critical aspects of implementing and ensuring a child-safe environment is being able to define what safety looks like and recognizing when a child's safety is in jeopardy. So, what do we mean when we say child abuse? Child abuse is any act or failure to act that causes harm or has the potential to cause harm to a child's health, development, dignity, or well-being. It can include physical violence, serious emotional or psychological harm, or serious neglect. Abuse can happen as a single incident, or it can be perpetrated over time. Importantly, it can also be perpetrated by anyone, including other children or young people. Conversely, what do we mean by child safety? Child safety means protecting children from abuse, managing risks before harm occurs, supporting children who may be at risk, and responding appropriately to suspicions, disclosures, or allegations. Child safety also means having strong policies and processes in place to ensure that all of this happens effectively and transparently.
The following video refers to teachers within the school environment, but the information provided is relevant to all people who work with children, regardless of the context. It is important to be aware of the indicators that a child may be experiencing abuse so that we are able to protect children, manage the risk, provide support, and fulfill our reporting duties, which will be touched on shortly. This video also refers to the 4 critical actions, which is their specific term for a reporting pathway. We will go through Auspicious's reporting pathway a little later in the video.
Hi again, and welcome to the section on identifying signs of abuse. Dane and I are going to look at the types of abuse and the common signs of abuse. You can check out the fact sheet or read through the text on the website if you need more detail.
So Willa, as you said earlier, as a school staff member, we play a really critical role in identifying abuse. For some kids, we might be the only people in their lives that are in a position to identify and report signs of abuse.
That's right, which is why it's really important that we know what we're looking for.
Willa, do you know which children are the most likely to be abused?
Any child can be abused, but children who are vulnerable, isolated or have a disability are much more likely to become a victim of abuse.
There are lots of forms of abuse too, aren't there? There is physical abuse, sexual abuse, grooming, emotional or physiological harm, neglect, and family violence.
Yeah, that's right. Let's look at each of them.
Physical child abuse can consist of any non-accidental infliction of physical violence on a child by any person. Examples of physical abuse may include beating, shaking or burning, assault with implements, and female genital mutilation.
Child sexual abuse is when a person uses power or authority over a child to involve them in sexual activity. It does not always involve physical contact or force. For example, talking to a child in a sexually explicit way or showing them pornography.
Sometimes a child may be manipulated into thinking that they brought the abuse on themselves, or that the abuse is an expression of love through a process of grooming.
That's right. Grooming is when a person engages in predatory conduct to prepare a child for sexual activity at a later time. Grooming can include communicating and or attempting to befriend or establish a relationship or other emotional connection with the child or their parent or carer.
Emotional abuse occurs when a child is repeatedly rejected, isolated, or frightened by threats, or by witnessing family violence. It can include things like derogatory name-calling and put-downs, to the extent that the child suffers or is likely to suffer emotional or psychological harm to their physical or developmental health.
Neglect includes a failure to provide the child with an adequate standard of nutrition, medical care, clothing, shelter or supervision to the extent that the health or physical development of the child is significantly impaired or placed at serious risk. Neglect may not immediately compromise the safety of the child and can also result in longer-term cumulative harm. Family violence is behaviour towards a family member that may include physical violence or threats of violence, verbal abuse, emotional or psychological abuse, sexual abuse, and financial and social abuse.
The signs that a child is being abused might be different depending on the type of abuse, right, Willa?
Yes, and there is a breakdown of the typical signs of each form of abuse on the website. But let's run through some critical physical and behavioural signs to look out for all forms of abuse. Here is a list of the common physical indicators.
So looking at this list, we should definitely be on the lookout for bruises and welts, internal injuries and injury to genitals, wearing unsuitable clothes to hide injuries, STDs, being consistently unwashed, hungry and having unattended health problems.
That's right. The best rule of thumb is to err on the side of caution. If something doesn't seem right and you suspect that a child may be being abused, then you should act by following the 4 critical actions. Here is the list of common behavioural indicators.
There are some easy to identify indicators here too, like if you see drawings or writing from a student which depicts abuse, or if there is persistent sexual activity which is inappropriate for their age,
Or if they have an unusual fear of physical contact with adults, or possess expensive gifts, or have unusually close connection with an older person.
I'm guessing that there are also signs that an adult may be perpetrating abuse too.
Definitely.
So we should be on the lookout for any relationship between a family member and child, or a staff member or other adult and child that makes us feel uncomfortable too.
Yes. Within the family, we should look for overprotective or volatile relationships and a child's reluctance to be alone with a family member. With other adults, including school staff members, we should look out for signs of inappropriate touching and social boundaries, like bringing up sexual or very personal detail in conversation, giving of gifts, and attempts to be alone with a child.
It says that adults may also try to undermine a child's reputation so no one will believe them about the abuse.
That's right.
So what we've learnt is that there are different forms of abuse. There are a range of common physical and behavioural indicators that a child may be being abused, and a range of signs that an adult is perpetrating abuse.
And most importantly,
If you form a reasonable suspicion that a child is being abused or is at risk of abuse, or an adult is perpetrating abuse, even if you're not sure, you must
follow the 4 critical actions.
Auspicious takes the child safe standards and our obligations to children and young people very seriously. Our policies and procedures align with the child safe standards, and this slide is a way of visualizing how our policies and procedures fit together and relate to one another. Our child safe policy is the primary document that informs clients of their responsibilities when working with children to ensure a safe environment and the mitigation of physical, emotional, or cultural harm. Our child safe policy clearly demonstrates our commitment to creating environments where children and young people are not only safe, but they feel safe too. It outlines the strategies and governance arrangements we have in place to protect children. It also makes responsibilities clear, so everyone in our community understands their role in keeping children safe. The policy is publicly available on the Auspicious website, and a copy has been provided to your project or program manager. Our child safe policy applies to any adult person over the age of 18 who is engaged by Auspicious Arts under an agreement who may work or interact with children at any time throughout the duration of a project. This includes volunteers. It's vital to remember that this policy also extends beyond the walls of the rehearsal or performance venue and must be adhered to while engaged in any interaction with children involved with the project. This includes situations such as work-related functions or parties and on social media. Our child safe codes of conduct sit underneath our child safe policy. These codes outline expected standards of behaviour and provide guidance on how best to support children and prevent situations in which harm could occur. Auspicious Arts operates under two different child safe codes of conduct. The first is the Code of Conduct for Workers. This outlines the expected standards of behaviour for all adults working with children on a project. It's provided by your auspicious client manager at the start of the project, forms part of your induction, and must be followed for the entire duration of the project. The second is the Code of Conduct for Children and Young People. This gives children aged 17 and under clear information about their workplace rights. It also outlines the behaviours expected of them and of the adults working with them. This code of conduct is also provided at the start of the project. It is vital that everybody read the relevant code of conduct prior to commencing any work. Auspicious has a comprehensive complaints handling and reporting policy that sets out how to raise concerns about misconduct and provides transparency about how those concerns will be managed. Before we go through the reporting steps, please remember, if you believe a child is at immediate risk of harm, call 000 first. A child's safety always comes first. This chart shows an overview of the complaint handling and reporting policy at Auspicious. Please take a moment to familiarise yourself with this slide. The full complaint handling and reporting policy is available on our website. A copy has also been provided to your main contact for this project. It is important to read this document as it contains further information regarding the investigation, outcome, and resolution process, including how Auspicious records the results of any investigation in accordance with the requirements of statutory authorities and the law. Our incident report form is part of our complaints handling framework and offers a clear, documented reporting pathway. Much like the Child Safe Code of Conduct, the incident report form exists in two versions, one for adults and one specifically designed for children and young people. These documents have been shared with your main project contact. Copies of these reporting templates should be made readily available to all children and adults involved with the project, including volunteers. An incident report form should be completed if an incident of child abuse occurs. It should also be completed if a staff member, project member, or client has reasonable grounds to believe a child is at risk of harm, even if they're not completely certain. Reasonable suspicion is enough to act. And importantly, It should be used if a child or young person wants to raise an issue, particularly if they're feeling unhappy, unsafe, or uncomfortable about something that has happened at work. The key takeaway is, if there is a concern, document it. We also provide a template for recording hours worked by children. This helps ensure we comply with laws that regulate when and how much children are allowed to work. Most employers need a license to employ children under the age of 15, whether the work is paid or unpaid. As a client of Auspicious, you are covered by our license for the duration of your project. However, there are legal restrictions on when children can work and for how long, and it's your responsibility to know these rules and make sure they are followed. You must also keep a record for all children employed on your project of the dates, times, hours, and locations worked. The best way to ensure your compliance is to head to the Workplace Wage Inspectorate website. You'll find the link on the screen. It's important to note that there are a separate set of rules for children working in entertainment, which can be found via this website. Your client manager will provide further information, but please do reach out if you have any questions or require any clarification. We're here to help. It's important to mention that child safety isn't just about physical or mental safety. We also need to make sure every child feels safe and supported, no matter their background. This could mean supporting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultural safety, asking for advice from First Nations organisations, elders, or leaders when needed, taking a zero-tolerance approach to racism and discrimination, remembering that children come from all kinds of different circumstances, recognising that not every child feels able to speak up about their needs, and paying extra attention to children with disability, culturally and linguistically diverse children, and LGBTQIA+ children. The main point here is that we need to create an environment where every child can feel safe, included, and valued. The Commission for Children and Young People has a great range of resources relating to providing culturally safe environments, including checklists with clear actions that may help to support you in working with children who may be particularly vulnerable. The Commission's website also has a range of other great resources. It's a good idea to check the website as information and resources are often updated. If you ever need to contact the Commission for Children and Young People, their phone number is 1300 782978. There's also a lot of helpful information on their website, including guidance on the child safe standards. In addition, the government's National Office for Child Safety has a range of resources in different languages. These are great places to find guidance, tools, and support if you ever need more information. And of course, you can always reach out to us here at Auspicious. If you have any questions at any point, we're here to help. We're really excited to work with you and create a safe, positive environment for all children.